Welcome. Hello. So, welcome to the annual Burton and Raylene Walls Distinguished Speaker Series Luncheon. This is our 17th year of introducing outstanding business leaders to our students. So, I love many things about my job and about working in the School of Business, Government, and Economics at SPU. My students, you know who you are. My subject matter, yes, I'm absolutely passionate about accounting. My colleagues, yeah, I hear you. My colleagues and our commitment to exploring the intersection of faith and our disciplines. I also love the opportunities that we provide outside of the classroom, okay? And this is one of those opportunities. It brings leaders in their respected fields on campus to share their experiences, knowledge, wisdom, and insights with our students. With you, this is just a wonderful opportunity. So if you would all join me in prayer, I'll ask a blessing. Dear Lord, thank you for the many gifts that you have given us. Help us to be mindful of them and thankful for them. In the midst of wrapping up the quarter with our thoughts of term papers and finals swirling in our minds, let us take time to reflect on your goodness. Help us to put our gratitude to work in using those gifts for the common good, to promote human flourishing. Bless the hands of all the staff that put this program together and the hands that prepared the food. Bless the students as they prepare for the end of the quarter and help them to finish strong. Bless the faculty as they too prepare for the end of the quarter. Give them stamina for the grading ahead. Bless our speaker, Nancy Lurker, as she shares with us today. We are grateful for her willingness to share her insights with us. Bless this food to our bodies. May we be ever grateful. Amen.
Fantastic. I hope you're all enjoying a lovely lunch, and we appreciate the opportunity to have lunch, so this is terrific. I want to welcome you all here today and echo Dr. Saw's welcome. This is a premier event for us in our school. Each year we bring an exceptional leader to campus, someone who leads in either business, government, or civil society, and who we can hold up as a role model for our students. So this is our mission is about preparing leaders who serve. And so what better to actually see some leaders who do that in their various respective circles of influence. And so we're very grateful for all the distinguished guests who are here today. Thank you for the senior leadership team of the university, President Martin, Provost Van Duzer, and the others who are here. We appreciate that, your visible support of our event. We also appreciate family members who are here from various participants, and also college roommates who are here supporting our speaker. So that is just fabulous, and so we're very grateful for that. But really, this is your day. You are the distinguished guests as students. This is your event. You're here to look and see and interact with a leader, and you're wanting to aspire to be a leader someday. And so you are leaders already in your very respective spheres. We have student leaders here. We have leaders of sports teams here. We have leaders in classrooms here. So we just appreciate the way that you're developing your leadership skills, and this is another milestone event in that journey. I want to thank very specifically Bert and Raylene Walls and their family for sponsoring this event. Should we give them a round of applause? Now, I believe Bert and Raylene are riding elephants in Namibia or somewhere like that at the moment, so we're kind of missing them today. But we're very fortunate to have Preston Walls and Annie Gartner here as son and daughter of Raylene and Bert. The Walls family have been very influential in our school over the years. Their father was the first director, their grandfather, was the first director of our business school. So it goes back a long way, and we're just appreciative of their sponsorship of this lunch. So I want to ask Annie to come up and say a few words on behalf of the family. Thanks, Annie.
Hello. So as I said, I'm the Annie Gartner, and I'm the daughter of Bert and Raylene Walls. And so, yes, my parents are off exploring the wonders of Africa, so they were unable to attend today. But even though Bert and Raylene are 10,000 miles away, I know they extend a warm welcome to both you, the students, and the faculty, and our speaker, Nancy Lurker. So my parents have created this speaker series to celebrate the talents and innovations that have grown from both Seattle Pacific University and Seattle in general. I'm amazed at the talent and caliber of speakers that are able to bring, many of which are SPU alum. Ms. Lurker is one of these. It is fun to think about her accomplishments and to consider what is next. Of this group of your peers, who will be the next to create an amazing company, to provide research and innovation to improve the quality of life of millions of individuals? I would say that Ms. Lurker has touched the life of my family with her work. I've worked as a physician for the past 10 years and have benefited by the research and development that her companies have achieved under her watch. My brother is a 2-time cancer survivor, once with leukemia as a child, and just last year he underwent treatment for lymphoma. He has benefited from being in Seattle with some of the best cancer researchers in the world and is alive today because of these advances. In medicine, our hands are tied with using the tools and drugs that are available to us. As advances in research continue, my job as a clinician is benefited, and for my brother as a patient, we are grateful every day. So on behalf of my family, we are happy to be part of the SPU community and excited to have Ms. Lurker here to speak with us today. Thank you.
Many thanks, Annie. Thank you very much. Please pass on our love and regards to your parents as well. We are very fortunate today to have Ms. Nancy Lurker as our premier speaker. She is the distinguished speaker this year, and as you can see, on your program, there's a long list of honorees and speakers that we've had over the years, and so Nancy just continues on in that tradition, and we're very grateful for her to be here today. As a busy chief executive officer, it is really difficult to get a day out and come to an event like this, and so we really appreciate it. Nancy has been in the pharmaceutical services industry for many years. She is currently CEO, president, and on the board of directors of pSivida. And pSivida has this wonderful website which says they're about delivering innovation to the eye. And I think it just captures what her company is about. She is in the middle of developing sustained release drug products and technologies to heal the eye. What a wonderful calling that is. Before she came to pSivida, in 2016, she worked for a company called PDI, and PDI was a commercialization and contract sales company that commercialize hundreds of products for their partner organizations. In the throes of working there, she spun off a division and sold it to publicist Touchpoint Solutions. It was the contract sales division, so she's very familiar with business strategy type moves, as well as managing a large organization. Prior to that, she was senior vice president and chief marketing officer of the large pharmaceutical company Novartis. And there she oversaw a $6 billion, it's a big difference, right? $6 billion drug portfolio of different therapeutic areas, including cardiovascular, respiratory, and anti-infectives. Prior to that, she has several roles at Impact RX. She's worked at Pharmasa Corporation, and before that, I think she started a career at Bristol Myers Squibb, which and there she developed her sales skills and started to understand the industry very well. She's currently on the board of directors of several organizations. She serves on the board of the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, a multi-billion-dollar private cancer treatment hospital system. She's chair of X4 Pharmaceuticals, a private-backed immuno-oncology company, and is a member of the Novo Advisory Group, which advises large investments out of Denmark for the Novo Foundation. Probably most importantly for us, though, Nancy is an alum. She has a BS in biology from Seattle Pacific University, and it was wonderful to see her interact with Dr. Ken Moore earlier, one of her professors. So welcome, Ken. Thanks for being here today. And then she got her MBA at the University of Evansville. Talking with some of her colleagues who went to school with her here, they say Nancy was a wonderful fellow student and just a wonderful person to be around. What was really striking about some of their descriptions to me is that she has a relaxed confidence and maturity even beyond her years when she was a student here. She was looking for leadership opportunities right from the get-go, but also had time for wonderful fun with her friends. And so, and she struck up, interestingly, such meaningful friendships here. And so it's a testament to some of her college roommates that they're here today, and they've kept up over the years. And so that's the kind of thing we like to see happening at Seattle Pacific, right? Building up meaningful friendships so that you know that when you get on in your life, you have folks that you can tap into, and you have a network of support, both in terms of your personal lives and in your professional lives. And Nancy certainly experienced that, and we appreciate the fact that some of her roommates are here today. So with that, I just want to welcome you, Nancy. Just appreciate you being here, and without further ado, ask you to come up and take over. Nancy's going to speak for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then Dr. Randy Franz is going to conduct some moderated discussion, and then he's going to hand it over to you to ask questions. So you need to be forming those questions already, and then we'll roll up the carpet about 1:45, I think. So thanks very much. Welcome, Nancy.
There we go. Okay. So thank you, Ross, very much. And let's put my first slide up because I want to give some thanks before I get started. Oh, I was told I got to get away from this mic. So I'm going to talk a little bit about being a pharmaceutical CEO. And a lot of you have heard about the good. You've also heard about the bad. And then I'm going to talk about the amazing of this industry. But first, next slide. Let me just give some thanks, and I can't say this enough. I'm probably going to cry. So I want to say thank you to this college, university, because I came here. My father was a Baptist minister, and I didn't have a lot of confidence. And I came here, and this school gave me confidence. Gave me confidence to achieve things I never thought I could achieve. You gave me lifelong friendships. My dear friend, Becky Hussey, her brother Terry, her family, Kathleen, and others, many who are not here. I can't thank you enough for those incredible friends. And I would encourage each of you, when you get older, you really value people who know you when you're younger, because they really know you. And then I want to thank some of the professors who believed in me. And Dr. Ken Moore, you're here. Thank you. I never thought I was all that smart, quite frankly. And then I got here and he said, Nancy, you can go places. And he spent lots of time with me. He encouraged me. There were times when I was struggling, and he said, you know what, you can do this. And he said, go for a PhD. I ultimately did not get a PhD. I ended up getting my master's, then going into the business side of medicine, which was a wonderful choice as well. But you encouraged me to aim higher than I ever thought I could aim, so thank you for that. And then this school gave me the intellectual foundation to question my faith and return to it. I went through a very difficult time in my life, and I walked away from my faith, and I came back to it, and a lot of it because I'll never forget going to some of my religious studies classes and then walking me through intellectually how to think about Christianity in the world today. And it gave me the ability to think rigorously around what is faith in this world. And honestly, as somebody with a science background, you really need to sort through those issues. The school gave me the foundation to really begin to explore my faith anew, and I'm happy to say I just continue to draw on my faith in my life every single day. And then I want to thank Dr. Dan Martin for the time over the last really probably 5 to 7 years we've gotten to know each other, and you've stayed in touch with me and really helped me get to know the school anew. So thank you for that. And for all the many other people, Kathy Stegman, wherever you are, you've been fantastic helping me get organized for this. And others, Louise for breakfast today as well, and for your communication with me. So there's many others, but thank you. All right, next slide. Okay, so I'm just going to say this. Many of you may already know this. Let me tell you something. Life, there is absolutely a little bit of luck, lots of perseverance, and a lot of, for me, enjoyable hard work. You have to work hard if you're going to be successful. But a lot of people think this is your success. Next slide. This is really my career track. I made a lot of mistakes. I learned to pick myself back up, and it's not in a straight line. It's not going to be in a straight line for you. It's going to take a while to figure out what you're good at. It's going to take a while to figure out what you want. That's okay. Just learn from it. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to move on at the end to some more insights about life and career. But here's what I'm going to talk to you about now is this wonderful, amazing industry that I'm a part of called the pharmaceutical industry. Now, when I started out, the industry was still really young. There weren't that many products out there. I started out I fell into this job in Seattle as a pharmaceutical sales rep. At that time, pharma wasn't on everybody's radar screen at all. In fact, nobody said, "You're working for a pharma company? What do they do?" And that was before these amazing drugs came out. So I'm going to show you some products that I've been involved in launching around the world that it's incredible what we've been able to do. So this is an HMG-CoA reductase inhibitor. I was responsible for launching Pravachol around the world. Pravachol is one of the many statins. Go to the next slide. This is what's called the Kaplan-Meier curve. For those of you who know anything on the statistics side or in science, it basically is the way you begin to evaluate following people over time and what happens on mortality scales. So if you look at the red line, that is the basically those people who are alive. On the bottom line is over time. So this one goes out to 12 years. And if you look at the top line, it's the people who did not get a statin. These are people who do have a cardiovascular disease. They had a heart attack, heart failure, stroke, whatever. And you can see, look at the difference in the number who are alive, basically 20% out after 12 years. Look at those who did not get a statin. You got like 80% who suffered another event or who died. And the fact is, even though you hear a lot about, oh, statins are bad, they're really not. The data is overwhelming. People who are on statins live far longer. So next slide. Another ACE inhibitor. Again, I had the privilege of launching one of these around the world today. We, at the time, only had beta blockers, which cause you to get very tired and don't have quite the mortality benefits that ACE inhibitors do. This is the chemical structure for ACE inhibitors. Next slide. You can see again the mortality curves. Bottom line, those who are alive who are on an ACE inhibitor, those who are not alive or who did not get the ACE inhibitor. And again, when you want to see that nice separation there, and it shows the difference in mortality, those who are alive and those who are not. So these drugs have saved and extended lives of millions and millions of people. Next slide. This is metformin. Actually, I'll tell you a little secret. I'm on metformin. And I'm on metformin because, believe it or not, I have slightly, I was just told you're not supposed to say pre-diabetic, but yes, as we get older, our ability to manage our glucose levels, hypertension, cholesterol, whatever it is. We all get older and we start to lose our efficiency. It's no different than a car engine, right? You start to lose efficiency over time. And so metformin, by the way, there's a big study going on right now at the National Institutes of Health in anti-aging for metformin. We know that people who are on metformin, even diabetics, now this again, over the age of 50, they simply live longer. We don't know why. We suspect it goes way beyond controlling glucose levels. But I'm on metformin because I am slightly pre-diabetic, but I also know it extends life. So I want to live a long time, so I'm on metformin. Next slide, this is just the Kaplan-Meier curve. Now this isn't quite, you're going to say it's not quite as robust, but notice the time scale. This only goes out to 700 days, so this is actually only at 2 years, and if you follow that out in time, you're going to see again that curve really starts to drop off for people who are on metformin versus no metformin. Okay, next slide. The bad. You guys heard of Pharma Bro? Martin Shkreli? All right, he's in jail. Actually, it just came out today. The judge just told him he had to give up $17 million to pay it back to the people he defrauded. He's the one who jacked up the price of an old drug that was really a single source product and took it up from like $50 to, I think, a couple $1,000s. Why do they do that? Because they're greedy, and they can. And I'm embarrassed about that for our industry. I'll tell you, I actually met Martin about 5 years ago when my other company, we were raising some money. I went and met him with my CFO, and I got out of that meeting, and I turned to my CFO, and I said, that guy's trouble. I said, I'm never going back to look at him again. And I couldn't have predicted this would happen, but you know what? Unfortunately, in all industries, there are sociopaths. He's a sociopath. And we need to weed those kind of people out because we're talking about the health of people, and you don't want to mess around with the health of people. Myelin is another one with EpiPen. I'm embarrassed about what's happened with EpiPen. Fortunately, the pharma industry is now starting to get control of this. It used to be part of the pharma trade group. You had to be a certain size of net revenues, et cetera, and now what they're saying is you have to devote at least 15% of your revenues towards R&D. Because what was happening with these companies, they weren't investing in R&D and they were just jacking up prices. So this is the bad part of pharma. We're starting to get a hold of it. We need to eject those kind of people from our industry and shame them. And fortunately, we are starting to do that now. Okay, next. Let me talk about the amazing. You heard about this from some of the Annie mentioned on the cancer side, Dr. Ken Moore, we were just talking as well with some of the cancer he has dealt with. It's incredible. Let me just say this right now. In pharma, like all industries, there's a sine wave that goes on. You reach big breakthroughs and then it tends to drop off. We're back up on a breakthrough area. We are on a cusp of some amazing things that are starting to happen. It's because of the human genome and the fact that we've deciphered it. Now, it takes time. For, like anything in technology, when you begin to unravel something that's significant and then the payoff from that takes time. So we unraveled the human genome, I think 2000 or thereabouts, so 17 years ago. The payoff from that's really starting to come forward now. So this is looking at CAR T therapy. For those of you who've heard about incredible drug therapy for oncology that is like saving people who were given up for dead, unfortunately, and they get on a CAR T therapy and all of a sudden they're in absolute 100% remission. That's CAR T therapy. So I'm going to ask you, go ahead and play the video. It's just a little video about what's going on with CAR T therapy, one of many things.
News and World Report says a breakthrough treatment to fight cancer has federal approval this morning. The FDA support makes CAR T the first approved gene therapy in the United States. It reprograms the body's own immune system to attack a deadly type of blood cancer. CAR T was effective in clinical trials in 83% of children and young adults with leukemia.
12-year-old Emily Whitehead was the first pediatric patient to receive this therapy. 5 years ago, she was dying from cancer, but today she is cancer-free.
Can you hear me? There we go. That's just a snapshot of what is starting to happen. And when we go into personalized medicine, you can see, and robotics, in terms of what's happening in the hospital suite, the operating room. It's incredible what is starting to go on. And but I'm going to say this as well, it takes a lot of capital to make this happen. Lots of money. I'll give you one example. At my company, I don't have anything on my company per se, because there's too many other amazing things as well I wanted to talk about, but we are developing a small nanoparticle. It's a tiny, tiny little device, no bigger than a little piece of thread. Gets injected into the back of the eye. I know it sounds terrible, but these patients get multiple eye injections. And it delivers a drug for 3 years at a very small, what's called zero order release, the same tiny, tiny amount every single day for 3 years. So it avoids you getting the third leading cause of blindness, which is uveitis, and every time you inflame, you lose a little more of your eyesight, and it stops the inflammation. So these patients hopefully can keep their eyesight for much, much, much longer. And as I tell people who come and work at our company, I say, you know, think about what you're doing. You're preventing blindness. How amazing is that? What a wonderful mission to have. But back to the CAR T therapy and what's going on. What I would just say to you is this. If you have any inclination about science or just want to be involved in medicine at all, this is a wonderful industry. We're making amazing breakthroughs every single day. We're back to, again, truly curing some of these diseases and turning them into lifelong. In many cases, cancer will become a lifelong chronic disease. It'll be managed. You won't die from it. It's like diabetes. You'll just learn maybe you won't live quite as long if you didn't have it, but you'll live a long life, and you'll live a fairly healthy life. And that's just as one of the many things we're doing. Others, with gene therapy, we're just going to cure the disease. So I would encourage you to think about it as an industry. Next slide. I've traveled all over the world. I've met wonderful patients and physicians and scientists all over the world, and business people. And it's been an incredibly fulfilling career. So if anybody wants to know anything more about it, you can see me afterwards. I'm always happy to talk about it. Okay, next slide. Some life lessons. Here's what I would say. Really take time. A lot of times, I'm going to give you an example. I have 2 beautiful daughters. You'll see a picture of them soon. Take time to get to know yourself. I have one daughter who's very self-reflective. I don't need to tell her to get to know herself. She just naturally does it. I have another daughter who's extremely an extrovert, and she's like, know myself, I'm just going to go have fun. But what I would say is get to know yourself, because it matters in any form of life, because personalities are interesting things. I'll tell you, fortunately through my career, I had a lot of coaching and lots of personality tests, because it helps give insights as to your leadership skills. So example, one of many, is Myers-Briggs. It's one of my favorites. I'm an ENTJ, which means I'm an extrovert, intuitive thinker, and judgmental, which means I plan. Interestingly, the majority of CEOs are ENTJs. Not to say you can't be a CEO if you're an ENTJ, but what it does do is it gives you insight into who you are, and it gives you insights into how other people are. So that instead of you being judgmental, like, I don't know why that person gets so emotional. Well, maybe it's because they're a feeler and they're not a thinker. Or maybe they're an introvert by temperament and they're not an extrovert. So rather than being judgmental, you learn to understand and how to interface better with those personality types. That's just one example. Another I would say is be grateful. I can't tell you how many people that I run into who are not grateful. And some of that has to come back to my faith, which is to give thanks every day for what we have. I'm incredibly grateful. And my life hasn't been perfect. I've made a lot of mistakes. And I've learned that holding on to any kind of anger, bitterness, envy, it only hurts yourself. And if you give thanks every day, you'll be a better person for it. And by the way, that's me as a little girl sitting up in front of there. But you know, again, as that very, very young child, I had to learn some of these lessons in life. And I'm grateful to my father, who is a minister, my mother, God bless him, who are passed away now. Forgive yourself and others. In fact, I had to tell my beautiful 20-year-old daughter, who was really mad at herself because she didn't do so well this last semester. She transferred schools, and she kind of goofed off, and she didn't do so well, and she's kicking herself for her grades, which were okay, but they weren't stellar. And I said, Rachel, you know what? You learned a lesson. Forgive yourself. Don't keep holding on to it, and move on. Move on. Learn from it and move on. Because if you keep beating yourself up, you're not doing yourself any good either. So forgive yourself and obviously forgive others, because you're going to make mistakes. I guarantee you're going to make mistakes in your career. You're going to make mistakes financially. You're going to make mistakes with your health. Pick yourself up and carry on. That's the greatest gift you can give yourself, and of course to others. Another one, this is a good business principle, but it applies in your personal life: fail fast. I often say this to my team, which is, but in life it means as well, life is not perfect. Again, I'm going to keep making that theme. And you may invest unwisely, you may pick wrong friends, you may end up in trouble. Pick yourself, you may pick the wrong career. Change it, make the change and move on. Don't look back and think, well, I've invested so much time and effort in this, I can't give it up now. That is what's called as the sunk cost fallacy. You've made an investment. The investment is in the past. You have to look forward, make those changes, and move on. If you don't do that, you're going to continually wallow in the past. So just move on, get going, and move forward. And in the business world, I actually had to chide my chief accounting officer recently because we had invested in a technology and kept saying, yeah, but we've invested so much money. And I said, Len, you know better than that. You cannot look at the cost that's already been sunk. That's called the sunk cost fallacy. You have to move forward beyond that, because now you have to look at what's the opportunity cost going forward. Do I keep investing in that, or do I invest in something else? That's how you have to look at it. And if it's not worth the investment you've already made, move on. Make your capital going forward. Finally, take some risk in life. Life can be boring at times. Your job is going to be boring at times. I've spent lots of times in certain jobs and I thought, oh. So you know what? Push yourself out of your comfort zone. You'll be a more interesting person. You'll learn to take some risks. Sometimes you're going to fail. Sometimes you're not going to fail. And you're going to learn, okay, you know what? That wasn't so bad. I can do it. Push yourself. Push yourself out of your comfort zone. Probably the one thing that just personally, that's just my temperament, is people who get stuck in ruts and they won't get out of their ruts. So, and it's not easy because you always are afraid, gee, what if I screw up? What if this doesn't work out? Well, okay, you learn a lesson, you move on. And what I find, and probably you guys know this more than anybody, particularly in Seattle, which is the biggest risk takers often are the people who are the most successful. Because to be successful, you have to take risk. Life is a risk, and so you can go on the safe and narrow path, or you can decide, I'm going to take some risk, I'm going to move on. For me, it was risky moving out of the Pacific Northwest, where I was born and raised. I moved to Evansville, Indiana, which was not a place I wanted to be at, but I did it. I would not, I hope I don't offend people from the Midwest, but I often say I've done purgatory, because Evansville, Indiana was not my idea of fun. But I went there for my career, and it paid off. I took some risk. I went to another part of the country. I didn't know anybody. I was kind of scared, but I did it. And you know what? You say, hey, I can do this. And it gives you more confidence to go forward after that. Okay, finally, next slide. My beautiful family. My husband, Dean, he's been incredibly supportive of me over the years, never threatened by my career success. Always supportive, always happy to see me be successful. My two beautiful daughters, Rachel and Grace, and then of course our dog Aspen. But I want to say one other thing. You know, one other thing I would encourage you to think carefully about: who you associate with. Your friends, your life partner, your spouse, it matters. They affect you. So be careful who you pick as friends, who you pick as a life partner. It has a huge impact on you. And so that's why I'm forever grateful to my husband, Dean, because it's so true. I couldn't be where I was if it wasn't for him. If he wasn't supportive with all the stress these jobs have, if he wasn't supportive, I would not be who I am today. So he's not here. He couldn't be here because our little girl's still at home, and so she couldn't get away from school. But I thank him. So I'm going to open it up for Q&A. Thank you.
All right. My name's Randy Franz. I'm a management professor here. A lot of familiar faces out there. Here's the deal. I've been asked to moderate this. I got a few questions here maybe to get things going, but ultimately we'd like to involve you and your questions. So I've got the roving mic here. I'm going to be out asking the questions from in the audience there. So after a question or two to get things started, if you have a question, please put your hand up. I'll come by and you can ask Nancy a question that you're interested in. So kind of to start us off here, Nancy, though, I'm curious. You work for an R&D intensive company, right? Lots of research and development, lots of very talented scientists and very educated people. Tell us a little bit about how do you attract and retain the needed talent that you need?
A couple of things. Number one, you have to be a good boss. If you're not a good boss, people aren't going to come. Come on, you guys know that. You're not going to go work for somebody if somebody's a jerk. So learn not to be a jerk. And I've had a lot of bosses that were not so nice. And I said, I'm never going to be like that. And I think the other thing, too, is particularly in this day and age, you have to have a low ego. I tell people all the time, it's a team. It is. I couldn't do that. All I am, I'm the orchestra conductor. I can't make this company successful without the brilliant scientists we have and the commercial people we're starting to hire. So you need to set a good culture and bring people in as a team. Subsume your ego. That's number one. Number two, you need to be located in the right place. We're in Boston. It's a hub for R&D talent. It's very hard to get R&D talent if you're not located in the right place. And third, I think, inspire people. Inspire them with what you're doing. And people will come to you. And then they want to make sure, obviously, they do want to make sure that, because biotech's risky. There's a lot of failures. It costs us $40 million to do these 2 phase 3 clinical studies. $40 million. That's a lot of capital. And we had to go out and raise that capital. And now, fortunately, we're filed with the FDA. We're going to get ready to launch in about a year. But you have to inspire people that you can get there, because there's a lot of companies that fail. So I would say for me, those are 3 important things.
Just to follow up too, you mentioned about the idea of helping save people from blindness, I think is how you put that earlier. How important is having a mission like that to kind of getting really truly dedicated people to come on board and be part of that culture?
I think it's incredibly important because, look, and I don't mean, many of you may end up in other industries, but for me, being able to say that you're preventing blindness, you're helping to cure cancer, you're preventing diabetes, you're doing gene therapy, I mean, it's incredible, the mission that you can have. And that does inspire people. We all want our lives to be meaningful. So I think that's absolutely critical towards being successful. But I just want to stress again, a good culture truly matters. I've been in companies where, actually I'll just tell this story, Bristol Myers Squibb. When I started out there, fabulous company, fabulous. I was there 14 years. I got mentored, I got guided. It was meritocracy. Then new management came in and I saw that company change, and it became highly politicized, highly competitive, sharp elbows, keep information from people to your own advantage. And I went home, I'll never forget, and I said to my husband, you know what? I was a senior director at that point in time. Remember, my goal was to be a vice president. And I said, if this is what it takes to be a vice president, I'm not selling my soul. I'm going to quit. So I found another job. I actually ended up interviewing with another company, Pharmacia. Management was fabulous. And by the way, that CEO, Fred Hassan, is now an icon in the industry because he believed in setting the right cultural tone. Transparency, teamwork, we're all in this together. Egos get shoved aside, and we're about the patient. We're not about only making money and getting ahead ourselves. And with that, he attracted the best talent in the industry. I went there, it was an incredible ride, and then by the way, Bristol Myers Squibb some of the top executives ended up in jail, indicted, and they went through a very tough time as a company. They're now out through the other side because they all got fired, but you know what? Don't sell your soul. If something doesn't seem right, move on. Be true to yourself. It paid off.
Just maybe a practical follow-up to that too is, as we're looking for an organization to take a job in, how do you get at what the culture is really like? Because it's hard to know before you've actually been in part of it.
Yeah.
So any tips or tricks?
Yeah, so what I would say is this: ask when you should, anytime you go on job interviews, you should be able to meet several people. Ask everybody, you have your set standard of questions, ask everybody you interview with. Tell me a little bit about the culture of the company. What would you say are the top attributes of this company? What does this company value? You should see some consistency, and if you don't, something's not right. And by the way, you'd be surprised. If it's a bad culture, a lot of times people will tell you, they may say, well, you know what, it's really not the best culture. I mean, so you can find out. Now, it doesn't mean that you'll always find it out, and you may say, okay, the culture's not the best, but I need a leg up right now. I'm going to take this for a year to get something under my belt, or 2 years. See how it goes. It may not be as bad as you thought, or you may go into a place you thought was fabulous, and you find out, whoa, we got a real problem here. All right. Stick it out for a little bit if you feel that's the best thing, and then you got to weigh when is the right time to leave. But I would say if you're not happy somewhere, and it's not just a matter of, gee, my boss won't promote me and I wanted to be promoted. Maybe you need to figure out why, is there a reason why I'm not being promoted? So go find that out first. But if it's a cultural problem, then line up your other job. It's always better to have another job lined up before you quit. Because people will say, wait a minute, what happened here? So, and then go for it, move on. I'm going to say one other quick thing, if you don't mind, which is particularly, it applies to, by the way, men or women, but I'd say also particularly for women. Women tend to be, I hope you don't mind if I say this, a little less risk-taking than men. And what I would say is oftentimes we tend to get pigeonholed, which happened to me as well at Bristol-Myers Squibb. People there say, well, you're a senior director, you're always going to be a senior director. And I kind of said, well, forget that noise, I'm moving on, in addition to the cultural stuff. If you get pigeonholed and you think you can do better, because people will pigeonhole you, move on. Go achieve your dreams. Don't let people pigeonhole you.
We've got a student question.
Hey, so my name is Ben. I'm a business administration major here. So I think that it's important to read because it's just a cheap and easy way to gain knowledge. So do you have like a book that you've read that you think it would be a good idea for us to read, or that has given you some valuable knowledge or insight?
Well, there's a lot of fantastic books. One of which is not as well known, but it actually helped me a tremendous amount, particularly because in some of these big companies, there's always going to be some politics. It's the 48 Rules of Power. And why do I like, it's actually quite Machiavellian. But you know what? You need to understand what motivates people. And like it or not, that's the world we live in, and you need to understand how to operate in the corridors of power. And that doesn't mean that you become that way, but you need to understand the dynamics, the power dynamics that are going on. And so honestly, it was like the scales fell away from my eyes. I'm like, oh, no wonder that's what's happening. Now I get it. So that to me was incredibly helpful. Another one, obviously, some standard business books from good to great. Wonderful, wonderful book on various companies and how you go from good to great. I'm actually reading one now, and I apologize, I can't think of the title, but it's written by a poker player, and she's talking about how you think poker is actually a wonderful game for understanding risk-taking and how to assess risk. I have to assess risk every day. I have to figure out how to allocate capital. I have to figure out with my team, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with me. I have to figure out risk-taking because you can't, you know, decisions I make could put the company under. And I got patients at stake. I've got employees' lives at stake. So understanding risk-taking from a statistical standpoint is very important. So remember the title, I'm about a third of the way through it. I love it. It's a great book on understanding risk-taking.
Good suggestions. Here's the next question.
Yeah, since you brought up the gender issue, I thought I would just ask this. I do some research in corporate governance, and there is quite robust evidence in the fact that women are still facing more glass ceilings compared to men in the leadership role. Like, women are harder to find a director position on the board of directors and things like that. So I'm just wondering if you could share experience as you grow in your leadership role. Have you ever faced those kind of glass ceilings? And if you have, how did you deal with it? How did you break it?
Okay, so let me say this, all right? It's much, much better than it used to be. It really is. And even so, you know, I came up even when, in the 80s, when people were wanting women. So I had some male mentors who said, we got to get some women promoted, and they mentored me back in the 60s. That's when it was really bad. So it's much better than it used to be. There's no doubt. I mean, I was telling, I don't know, somebody here, every year there's the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference in San Francisco, and there's thousands of people come. It's Wall Street money, and it's all the CEOs, CFOs from big pharma all the way down to small pharma. And it's this massive environment of top-level executives with the Wall Street money, and you're running around having tons of meetings with each other to raise money for your businesses and get investors to invest in. I bet 10% are women, probably 10%. That's it. So I still feel like a huge minority there. However, let me say this, that I think we do need to change the board of directors. I think we need more women at top levels. I would challenge women, though, think bigger. I'm going to encourage you to do that. Because too many, I can't tell you how many times, and this is so true, I will have a guy come in and I'll say, guess what? We're going to promote you to this position over here. And this has happened. And the guys usually say, great, when can I start? I can't tell you how many times the women say to me, ooh, I'm not ready for that yet. I need another couple years in this job. And I say, stop. You are more than capable. Again, so that's why I say to women, push yourself. You need to go for it. You need to say, I can do it. Because there's just more, I think there's less aggressiveness, and I think sometimes women are afraid to say, hey, you know what, I can do this, and I'm going to do it, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to advocate for myself. So part of my job is to come here and speak to all of you about these things. I give a lot of talks to young women to say, please go for it. Let me see how I can help. I just added a woman to my board. I want to add another woman to my board. I try to get women promoted into senior management and to act as a mentor to them. And by the way, I'm going to also say minorities, same thing. We need diversity at the highest levels of our society, and we still don't have enough. So I'm going to say that to everyone. And then finally, I want to say to the men, which I'm sensitive to. I don't have any sons, but I'm sensitive to this because, you know what? You are every bit as important. I don't want men to feel that somehow, gee, all the women are getting talked to, et cetera. You are every bit as important. And I will tell you, I love working with guys. I always have. So I'm just going to say, everybody, just, go out, go for it. And find somebody who can help you. That helps a lot. It doesn't mean you have to find somebody like me. You can bounce ideas off one of your professors. Get to know your professors. Stay in touch with them. And you'd be surprised the advice they're willing to give you.
Hi, I'm Dominic Hayden, senior political science student originally from California. I was wondering, for those of us on the brink of starting our professional lives and finishing our undergraduates, would you be willing to paint in broad strokes how you got from SPU to where you are today?
Yeah, well, there's that squiggly line. So again, some of it truly was good fortune. I didn't know I'd be a CEO someday. I really didn't. I knew I was ambitious. I was always ambitious. So I first thought I was going to be a doctor and then get my PhD. I went to Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center, and I worked as a cytogenetic tech. And when I was there, I thought, oh my God, this is going to drive me crazy. I'm dealing with all these PhDs who are introverts, and they don't talk. And that's when I said, wait a minute, this is not, so I learned from that. I learned, okay, this is not for me. I still didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, so then my next job was, I got a job as an inside sales rep for Van Waters and Rogers, a chemical company. And it was kind of boring, honestly, but I was sitting there inside answering the phone, selling chemicals, and all I saw were these salespeople from Dow Chemical coming in these nice suits. I knew they got paid more than I did, and I thought, wow, that's impressive. So then I went to a recruiter and I said, I want to be in the business side of medicine. They said, well, what's that? I said, I don't know. I just want to be in the business side of medicine. So if you see a job that comes through, let me know. And by good fortune, a district manager from pharma was looking for a sales rep. At the time, pharma didn't have a name. Nobody really knew what pharma did. He took a gamble on me. That was my first big break because I didn't have experience in the area, but you know what he saw? He saw drive. He saw a willingness to work hard. I knew science. By the way, I'm going to make a pitch. I love science, particularly, again, if you have an inclination towards science, I can't stress enough, we're desperate for people who've got undergraduates and science degrees. It just, in pharma in particular, if you know science and you want to come up through the business ranks, it's a great career. Having that science background, I wouldn't be where I was today if I didn't get my undergraduate in biology. So he took a chance on me, and then I worked my tail off. I worked hard. And then I told him, I was clear what my career goals are. That's another thing I'd say. Be clear what your career goals are. Even if you're not sure, I don't care, fake it. Because, why is it? Because people, they'll remember. It's like branding. They'll remember. They'll say, wait a minute, that person said that they want to be a product manager, and we got an opening in product management, and she's proving herself, and that's what happened. I said, I want to be in home office in product management. I always have told my bosses what I want to do next, because they remember that, and then they say, okay, but what's not good is if you say, well, I'm not sure. They don't know what to do with that if you're not sure. So even if you're not sure, put a stake in the ground. You'll figure it out, and if that detour didn't work, you'll figure your way back over on this detour. Lastly, I'm going to say I made a couple career mistakes. Back to picking yourself up. Just to give you a sense, I left Bristol Myers Squibb, went off on a flyer on a physician practice management company. It was a disaster. The company failed. I walked away from what would have been ultimately over $1 million in stock options. Just poof, went away. Back to money mistakes. And I ultimately said, well, that was a big screw up. So I picked up the phone, I called Bristol Myers Squibb back, and I said, all right, I've been gone for 1.5 years. The company I went to take a flyer on went belly up. Will you take me back? They said, yeah, we'll take you back. I came back, got my career back on track, dusted myself off, and I continued forward. So, don't get down on yourself when you make a mistake. You're going to make a mistake. Yes.
Hi, I'm Alex Donka, a senior studying development economics here. Now, the United States has the highest per capita medical costs of any country in the world right now. So what would you recommend as a pharmaceutical company CEO that we do on the policy level and from a cultural perspective to change the market incentives so that we can lower those costs and increase access for low-income individuals?
Yeah. Look, I'm not going to claim to be a policy expert. I do know a fair amount. I'm going to say it's complicated. Let me say a couple of things, and I want to be conscious of time. We're okay on time? All right. So first of all, I'm going to get to your question, but I want to say some things. Let me explain how this works in the pharma industry. You hear this a lot. Okay. For us to produce our little tiny nanoparticle device, I'm going to give you a rough range because this is confidential information, but just put it, it's not a lot of money for us to produce that device, okay? It doesn't cost a lot. But we're going to charge about $9,000 per device. I've been very public with that for 3 years. It's a 3-year device, okay? $9,000 is what we're going to charge. At the margin, our ability to produce that is nothing. But remember I told you $40 million of capital it took to get it through the clinical trials. Guess what? We're public. We've got investors. They want their return. If they don't get a return on their investment, they're not going to give me capital going forward. And the capital dries up, and I can't do more clinical studies. We can't continue and invest in preventing blindness. That's sort of the way of the world. Now, here's what happens. Unfortunately, and we have to fix this. Over in Europe, because they have socialized medicine, sounds great. The problem is the healthcare systems over there are not as great as you think. You hit 60, you're not going to get a lot of life-saving treatments. They're going to say, tough luck, you want it, you've lived your life, it's going to the young. You may say, wonderful, but you're not going to get that CAR T therapy. You got to pay for it yourself. So, but with drugs over there, unfortunately, America carries the burden of drug costs. We do. And we need to fix that. It's a problem. Europe is not carrying their fair share. They should pay more for drugs. But right now, they're not. And so I can go over there and sell drugs for a lot less and make the profit that we need to make here in the US. That's not fair to the American citizens, but that's the way it's set up right now. So what do we need to do? And I give credit to Scott Gottlieb, who's the new FDA commissioner. So here's what he's doing, and he's smart. He's approving drugs faster. Some of the studies that are being required, frankly, are ridiculous. The regulatory burden is not good. Yes, we need to keep patients safe. However, a lot of the stuff that we have to do is just added cost. So he's approving drugs faster to get more competition on the marketplace. And he's also approving generics faster. The kind of regulatory burdens that they put in front of those generic companies is a crime. The FDA should be ashamed of that. He's fixing that. Get the generics out there, because the more generics that are on the market, the more, as a branded drug, my business goes away and you get the benefit of a generic drug, which is good. I need a time period to recoup my money, but as soon as my patent's off, generics should be allowed to come in. So he's fixing that. That's all good. And then the second thing, as I said, is lower the regulatory burdens. And the last thing, I was talking again, I think, Louise, with you at lunch, or breakfast. What's happening, if you've seen the announcement with Jeff Bezos, Amazon, and I think it's Citibank, and one other big player is coming. Pardon? Berkshire, Warren Buffett, to begin to come in and disrupt the marketplace. We need that. It's so confusing the way the United States system is set up that it's creating, there's huge malalignment of incentives, and that's not good. So we need to fix that. What's probably going to happen is that doctors are going to all become salaried. Like it or not, because medicine's getting so complex, we need to get away from fee for service. Fee for service incentivizes more and more and more and more tests. We need to put a cap on the ability of pharma. It's a good thing that managed care demands that we have to pay them rebates to keep our prices low, and we have to get on formulary with low prices, but that middleman sucks too much of the dollars out of the system, and that's what Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos are trying to disrupt. So we need that disruption in the system to get out of some of the waste that's going on. And finally, I'm just going to say this. We need tort reform. I can't tell you how many doctors practice defensive medicine. And why do they do it? Because they're going to get sued if there's a 1% chance that they miss something on you. So guess what? You're going to go in for a test. You really don't need it. But, I think I saw something, and if I don't get you in for that test, I'll get sued. So we got to have tort reform. So we need all of that. Now, I don't have all the solutions, but that's what I would just say off the top of my head.
Hi, my name is Carissa. I'm a first-year business administration major, and I was wondering, you were talking about the importance of having a good, constructive company culture to foster success, and I was wondering, as a CEO, if you could put in concrete terms, how do you foster that kind of culture and promote that as a leader?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is you have to model it. You absolutely have to model it, and like we have our values that a great part of their review, teamwork. Patient first, innovation, transparency. I know sometimes these are corporate speak, and I hate corporate speak, but it means you don't hoard information. You work together as a team member. You look out for the common good. You think about, what can I do to help these patients? You don't think about my bonus. You think about, and we're going to make decisions, like sometimes, and I've seen this, so I'm going to say some of the bad things about my industry. I've seen executives where a clinical trial comes in. Remember, data can be manipulated. A clinical trial comes in, they think they see a signal that's a safety signal, but not sure. Just pretend we didn't see it. That's an ethical breach. So when you see that go on, you either call it out or you leave. I make it very clear to my team members, any breach of ethics, any breach of integrity, you're gone. There's no second chance. You're out of here. So you have to set that tone. And then, you know what? I often go to their office, their cubicle. I don't make them come to mine. When I go to a table, obviously the head of the table is usually reserved for me. I make a point of sitting in the middle of the table because we are all in this together. And you have to subsume your ego, and unfortunately a lot of people don't, but that's really what creates a great culture, is that sense of what are we all about every day. And one of the things I've learned, actually, I'm just going to say this from Cancer Treatment Centers of America, the board I sit on, the Stevenson family is an amazing family. One of the things they do, and as soon as we get to market, I can't right now because we're not on the market, but they have a patient come to every board meeting, a patient comes and gives a testimony, because he never wants us to lose sight of we're about the patient. So it's just those kinds of things that you start to instill, and people get the message pretty fast. And if they don't like it, they'll leave.
All right, I think we have time for one last question.
Hi, I was wondering, how do you professionally balance being a board director, advisor, and chief executive officer for 3 different companies in different geographical locations?
It's a very good question. It's not easy. I'm going to also go back to, I still have a 14-year-old daughter at home. So I'm going to talk about being a mother as well. So first of all, my advisor to Novo Nordisk is 3 times a year. So, and then I'm careful about the boards I take. The one board that I'm the chair of is in Boston, and my company's in Boston. So that doesn't take a lot of travel time, so I manage that travel time. As a CEO, it's actually good for you to be on other boards because you learn a lot. You get a perspective from another CEO, and you get a perspective from other companies, how they do things. So it's actually, the cross-pollination is actually quite good. I'm not going to say it's easy, but here's another thing I've learned to do. I compartmentalize really well. And one thing why I would say, first of all, I've had a wonderful husband who's been supportive of me, but I don't let work impede on my home life. Now, that's not easy to do, and I'm not saying I don't come home and talk about work, because I want my daughters to hear what I'm dealing with. But when I'm home, I'm emotionally there for my kids. I'm not, and I've seen too many executives who are not emotionally there for their kids. They're distracted, they're, I gotta go off and do this call. I tell people, and at work, I often say, my daughter's got a field hockey game. I'm going to her field hockey game. Sorry, see ya. I'll be back online at 10 o'clock at night after she's in bed. I make a point of saying that because I want my team members to know it's okay to take time off to be with your family. Your family's important. So as a mother, I always make sure I'm there for my girls. And there were many times that I could actually be probably a CEO of a much bigger company if I had sacrificed my family and put even more time in, but I wasn't willing to make that trade-off. So I hope that answers your question. It's not easy.
All right, thank you very much. Kind of fun to hear the view from the top, right? And to see the thoughts from a very thoughtful, successful woman and alum. So what a fun event. Thank you for all the organizing. Thank you for the sponsors and the family. You are dismissed.